The afternoon sun warmed the small coffee shop patio where Owen Fletcher sat with his 7-year-old daughter, Rosie, her laughter mingling with the aroma of roasted beans and the hum of passing cars. Life for Owen was simple and predictable. Days filled with sawdust, handmade toy trains, and the quiet rhythm of survival. He was a carpenter by trade and a father by heart, a man who found peace in small things, the weight of wood in his hands, his daughter's smile, the steady beat of ordinary days. But everything changed in the space of a single heartbeat, when a woman in heels and silk appeared before him, her voice trembling as she said, "Should you kiss me? My ex is watching." The words hit him like a sudden storm. Her eyes darted toward the man standing 20 feet away, tall, suited, and dangerous in his composure. Fear flickered beneath her polished exterior, betraying a desperation she could no longer hide. Owen had never seen her before, but something inside him recognized the silent panic of someone drowning. Logic told him to stay out of it, to protect his quiet world. Yet, compassion overruled caution. He rose slowly, his calloused hands brushing the sawdust from his flannel sleeves, and before doubt could speak, he leaned in and kissed her. It was brief, 3 seconds at most, but it felt like falling through air, uncertain of the landing. When they pulled apart, her eyes glistened with relief and disbelief. The man in the suit turned away, humiliated, and disappeared into the crowd. The woman exhaled shakily, her composure crumbling as she whispered, "Thank you. I didn't know what else to do." Owen simply nodded, still processing the absurdity of what had just happened. Rosie, with innocent wisdom, handed the woman her juice box and said softly, "You look like you need this more than me." That made the woman laugh through her tears, introducing herself only as Vivien. They talked for a while, sharing awkward smiles and quiet gratitude, before she left, pressing a sleek business card into his palm. That night after Rosie fell asleep, Owen finally looked at the card. A Vivien Watson, CEO, Watson Industries, a billionaire. He laughed in disbelief, unaware that the kiss meant to save her would soon change both their lives forever. 3 days after that unexpected kiss, Owen Fletcher was back in his workshop, surrounded by the comforting scent of pine and varnish, when the sound of expensive heels clicked against the concrete floor. He looked up to see Vivien Watson, the woman from the coffee shop, the billionaire whose business card still sat tucked in his wallet like a secret. She stood there, elegant yet uncertain, her polished confidence softening under the raw honesty in her eyes. "I should have called first," she began, her voice steady but fragile. "I wanted to thank you properly, and ask for something unusual." She hesitated before explaining that the man from that day, Brett Cunningham, was her ex-boyfriend and a powerful investor who had been sabotaging her career since she ended their relationship. He had allies on her company's board, men eager to see her fail. But after he saw her with Owen, he had backed off slightly, believing she had moved on. Now, she wanted to use that illusion to protect herself and her company. "I need you to pretend to be my boyfriend for 3 months," she said finally. "Attend events with me. Make it believable. In return, I'll pay for Rosie's college education. Any school she wants." Owen was stunned. It sounded insane, something from a movie, but the sincerity in her eyes made it impossible to dismiss. He thought of Rosie's future, of the worn sneakers, the stack of bills, the quiet sacrifices he made daily. "Why me?" he asked. Vivien smiled faintly. "Because when I asked a stranger for help, you didn't hesitate. You didn't want anything in return. That's rare in my world." Against every instinct for simplicity, Owen agreed. Their first public appearance together was at a grand charity gala in the city's most luxurious hotel. Owen wore a custom tuxedo that felt foreign on his frame, while Vivien shimmered in silver silk that turned heads as soon as she entered. The crowd's whispers followed them like shadows. When Brett approached, smirking, Vivien stood tall, her hand resting on Owen's arm, as if it had always belonged there. They danced under crystal chandeliers, pretending to be in love. And for a fleeting moment, Owen realized it didn't feel like pretending at all. Weeks passed, and what began as a staged relationship started to blur into something dangerously real. Vivien often visited Owen's workshop during lunch breaks, trading boardroom stress for the scent of wood shavings and freshly brewed coffee. She'd perch on his workbench, asking about his projects while confessing her own fears. The loneliness of power, the constant scrutiny, the exhaustion of pretending to have everything under control. Rosie adored her, especially after the Saturday Vivien showed up in jeans and helped build a birdhouse, her manicured nails smudged with glue and paint. Owen watched them together and felt something stir inside him, warmth he hadn't felt since before his marriage fell apart. But just as their worlds began to intertwine, the cracks started to show. Tabloids discovered their romance, painting Owen as a gold digger and Vivien as a publicity-hungry CEO. Cameras followed them everywhere. Clients stopped commissioning Owen's furniture, and Rosie came home from school in tears after classmates repeated cruel gossip they'd overheard from adults. Owen tried to shield her from it all, but it was like holding back the tide. Then came the breaking point. Brett leaked the contract proving their relationship had been fake from the start. Within hours, headlines screamed betrayal, and Vivien's reputation teetered on the edge of ruin. She arrived at Owen's shop that night, trembling, mascara streaking her cheeks. "It's over," she said. "The board will vote me out tomorrow." But Owen refused to let her give up. "Then we fight," he said simply. "We'd tell them the truth." She stared at him, her voice barely above a whisper. "Did it become real for you?" He met her eyes without hesitation. "It did for me." The next morning at the board meeting, Vivien stood tall beside him. She admitted everything, that she had hired Owen, but also that somewhere in the lie, she found truth. "I fell in love with the man who builds with his hands and believes in kindness," she said firmly. When Brett mocked her, Owen spoke up, defending her integrity with a quiet strength that silenced the room. By the end of the meeting, Brett was dismissed, and Vivien remained CEO. Outside, as cameras flashed, she turned to Owen. "What happens now?" she asked. He smiled softly. "No, we stopped pretending." And for the first time, their kiss wasn't an act. It was a beginning. Months passed, and life slowly began to find its balance between boardrooms and sawdust. Owen's workshop, once quiet and struggling, was now alive with purpose and people. After the storm of scandal faded, Vivien used her power not to rebuild her image, but to make change. Launching a new initiative that partnered with local artisans and single parents to create sustainable, handmade furniture. Owen's workshop became the flagship for the program, a place where work carried dignity and second chances were built into every grain of wood. Rosie thrived too, enrolled in a better school with new friends and endless curiosity, her laughter filling every corner of their small but warm apartment. Vivien, once the untouchable CEO, had become part of their daily rhythm. Cooking dinners that sometimes ended in smoke, learning to laugh at her mistakes, and finding joy in imperfection. Their love wasn't the glamorous story the tabloids had once chased. It was quieter, steadier, built on small acts of care. Shared breakfasts, long talks, and the comfort of belonging. But challenges still came. Brett, bitter and defeated, tried one last time to drag Owen's past into the spotlight by exposing his divorce and financial struggles. Instead of running, Owen faced it openly, and Vivien stood beside him, her hand in his, her loyalty unshaken. "We all have scars," she said. "But they remind us that we survived." That simple truth silenced every critic more than any headline could. A year later, Watson Industries celebrated the expansion of Owen's workshop program to 6 cities, employing dozens of single parents. At the ribbon-cutting ceremony, Rosie held one end of the ribbon, beaming with pride, while Vivien spoke to the press about compassion, courage, and community. When the cameras turned away, she leaned close to Owen and whispered, "This is what real success looks like." That night, as they stood together watching the sunset from the workshop doorway, Rosie's laughter echoed behind them, blending with the hum of life they'd built. It wasn't perfect, but it was real. Messy, hopeful, and filled with love. Owen wrapped an arm around Vivien and smiled. "All this," he said softly, "because one day a stranger asked me for a kiss." And she smiled back, eyes glistening. Best decision I ever made.